This is a channel about engines. Today we're going to assemble the KP 8S180 and 8-speed with a splitter. Well, is it really a splitter? The correct name is the multiplier. So here it is. Well, you can call it a splitter. Basically, in the 8-speed, there's only a demultiplier here. There's actually no splitter here. The splitter is in the 16-speed. There, you have both a splitter and a demultiplier. Well, in simple terms, you can also call it a splitter. Let's just call it a splitter. The meaning is still clear. There's a picture, so I think no one will get confused. I have a disassembly and inspection of this gearbox on my channel. I'll leave a link in the description. If you're interested, you can check it out. I'm starting the assembly now. So there are a lot of new parts here. I don't even know, maybe 100, 120, 130,000 worth of new parts. So I'm showing the full assembly. I still need to clean the gasket, but that's minor. All right, so first of all, I need to assemble the secondary shaft. The secondary shaft will be new. Let's get started. Right away we can see that the new shaft doesn't have this oil tube. So now we'll try to remove this tube and insert it here. So basically the shafts are identical. To knock out the oil channel tube, I take a rod like this, 10 millimeters in diameter, push it all the way through and press it against this tube. Now I need to insert this oil tube into the new shaft. You could make a special tool, but a 14 millimeter socket fits perfectly here. You don't need much force, and that's all you need. I'll do this when I assemble the secondary shaft. I'll put on all the gears, assemble it completely, and then I'll drive in this oil tube. So, as for the parts, everything we're using for this tube is new. Clutch gasket set, 1 cone, the second cone for the splitter, rings, cones, the second, third, and fourth gear cones, rings, bearings, needle bearings, all sorts of bushings, retainers, springs, spacers. I'm starting to assemble the secondary shaft. I secure the fixtures and first install the second gear. Here we have reverse, first, second, third, and fourth is the primary shaft. So the first is the fifth, the second the sixth, the third the seventh, and the fourth the eighth, when they use the demultiplier, not the splitter, to be precise. I put on the bearing, oil it, and put on the gear. Well, even ZF original. I'm checking how the new ring and the new cone fit so we can see what the gap is. Okay, the gear is installed. I'm putting on the second gear cone. Then I'm installing the ring. Now I'm installing the hub for first, second, fifth, and sixth gear. The ring. Next, I take new springs and new retainers. Install the retainer lengthwise. Then install the first and second gear sleeve. Press the retainer with a screwdriver to seat the sleeve. The sleeve is now in place. The second gear is assembled and the first gear bearing. Next is the ring. You can just put it together like this right away. These protrusions fit into the spot where the spring is. The gear. First gear. Next, I install the reverse gear engagement retainer. It just fits onto the spline. The ring. The reverse gear needle bearing. And the reverse gear itself. Next, I install the bearing. I heated it up and I'm fitting it while it's hot. everything is fitted. I heated the bearing on the stove. So next I flip the shaft over and assemble it. The third gear. I installed the third gear, new bearings and the gear. I'm putting on the cone and the ring. Let me repeat, between the cone and the ring, here are the new ones. You can see the distance right here, so in this spot, thanks to this ring, when the sleeve starts to move to engage these splines on the cone, the gear engages. This ring slows it down so the gear is spinning, and this ring slows it down and stops it. So when it equalizes their speeds, or rather stops it, at that moment the sleeve engages with these splines. So if the gear doesn't engage well, if the lever doesn't move smoothly, the first thing to check is wear on the cone and the ring. Alright, next I install the third and fourth gears. I'm using the old clutch for now to demonstrate, since I don't have the new one yet. Later, so I don't have to go back to filming, I'll just put in the new clutch and that's it. I'm not installing the retainers to make it easier. Just like that. Assuming it's installed, the retainers go on the same way as for first and second gear. To be continued. The clutch is put on the same way. So here the ring is placed the same way and the cone is installed the same way too. So next the bearing is installed hot. I heated it up quite a bit. I'm going to install it too. It's lying on the hot plate. So the bearing is heated to about 200 to 250 degrees. That's how it fits. Okay. And the ring. Well, that's what it looks like. And then here we already have, so the primary shaft. Again, regarding the gears, we have something like reverse here. When the demultiplier is engaged, this is first gear, this is second, this is third, and this is fourth. Then, when the demultiplier is disengaged, we have fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth gears. Each gear functions as 2 gears. That's it. My secondary shaft is assembled. No questions about the intermediate shaft. I'm not doing anything with it here. Now I'll assemble the demultiplier and then move on. Now I need to assemble the splitter. I installed the springs, the thick one, the thin one, and the retainer. We installed the intermediate shaft first. We installed the primary shaft. Intermediate. That's how we put the cones in. Fourth gear ring. So this is first, second. So the cover from the input shaft side is flipped over, and preferably, like I have a table with a hole in it, right? So that the input shaft can go through. So first intermediate shaft is installed. Also, you need to make sure that the tabs line up with the oil pump drive. So you set the tabs, then position the shaft in one place and align them. Next, the main shaft is installed. The main shaft cone and the main shaft ring are placed on the main shaft. Then the secondary shaft assembly is installed along with the intermediate shaft. You'll need to bend them back, then connect them together. Next, the forks are installed into the groove. Then the fork sliders are put in place, and finally, the forks themselves are left in position. It's designed so you can't mix it up. The reverse gear fits into this slot, and there's an audible sound on the shifter and walls. Here, the engagement doesn't go in. We have 1 and 2 here. The engagement moves with the middle fork, and 3 and 4 go in. The first engagement is here, so this is reverse. This is 1 and 2. And this is 3 and 4. Basically, the forks are interchangeable. These sliders and the forks for reverse and for third and fourth gears are interchangeable. The middle one has its own fork. You need to prepare the housing and, if necessary, degrease the mounting surface. Here I have a filter. I also degrease it here, and now I need to glue it with super glue. So it doesn't fall out like this. There's a filter here. I'll leave it for now and let the glue dry. Now I need to prepare the cover and degrease it as well. The gasket. Now I need to install the housing on top of the cover. What do I need to pay attention to? So first, this oil tube needs to fit in place. Then the guides 1, 2 need to line up, and also the filter. I glued it so it wouldn't fall out. Here, I need to insert the forks into this groove. And on the cover, I need to press on this latch on the housing to move it aside. The filter got stuck. So I applied some sealant. I'll replace the gasket. Before installing the housing, I need to put it in reverse gear. So right here, I need to put it in reverse gear. It doesn't fit from this side, so you have to insert it from the inside and bring it out here and push it out as much as possible. So I insert it from the inside, and now I'll move it a bit here so it doesn't get in the way. Everything's greased. Sealant and gasket are set already. The key is to get into the tube so the forks stay together and align with the guides. Subtitles by Dimato Zog. The pusher, it's almost in. Here it's in. The bearing is in. Now the guides are in. There's about 5 mm left. Now I need to catch the forks. We installed the housing here. So to get these forks in place, you need to pull back this trigger, push it further, put in these holders for the forks, and also these 3 bolts that hold the forks. The reverse gear was misaligned like this all this time. Now I'm aligning it. I'll add some oil and insert it into the shaft. That's it, the reverse gear is in place. I'm inserting the bolts. You need to thread 2 or 3 bolts around, and then you can flip the gearbox over and tighten all the bolts. Alright, so the cover is fully tight, and now I'm going to install the cup since I didn't change the bearings. I don't need to adjust anything. I'm just putting back the same washers that were here. Next, before continuing the assembly, I need to check the gear shifting, just like it is right now. To make sure that all the forks are seated correctly, that all these bolts are in place and fit into the forks, I need to check the gear shifting. So in order to shift gears without the splitter, I need to press this trigger all the way. The plate inside, if it's in this position, simply doesn't let the forks move. That's why we press it all the way and try to engage the gears, turning the shaft a little with a pry bar. Continuation is coming up now. Now the reverse gear should engage. So I'm turning it clockwise. Here we can see that it's spinning in the opposite direction, and so on. You can check all the gears. I won't film it. I've already checked everything. Now everything works. I'm putting the cup back. We washed and cleaned it. Now I need to replace the oil seal. I'm installing the oil seal via the fill port. So since I didn't change the bearings, I'm just leaving the old washers. I put a couple of drops of super glue and position the washer so it doesn't fall off. When installing, I coat it with sealant. I put a drop of oil where the oil seal goes. I'm leaving the old gasket. It's sitting well, not torn or anything. I just degrease it with solvent and install the cup. So I'll turn the gearbox over again. Now I'll install the multiplier. I'm installing the central gear of the planetary gear set. It just sits on... I'm putting on the ring. Next, I need to install the oil tube. The shaft that engages the splitter. This is where the fork that engages the splitter goes into engagement. These are the two positions. There's a retainer here. Here it is. So this shaft has two grooves. The retainer, two positions, either engaged or disengaged. So now I'm installing the splitter. That's right. It simply drops in from above. The key is to align the central gear splines with the small gears. Like this, the groove is where the shaft goes. As I said, the fork goes here, and then these go in later. You can turn it a little bit right or left by a millimeter. It's just on the cover here. All of these have lined up. Okay, that's it. Now I'm installing the fork and we can close the cover. First, we'll put in the demultiplicator, then insert the retainers and sliders into the fork. Now I need to install the fork. I'm installing the fork and setting it aside for a bit. Now I'm inserting the shaft. Just with a little effort, so it can snap over this retainer. So this is my first position. Well, we can already put the fork on, and that makes it the second position. For now, I'll set it somewhere in the middle position. I'll set it in this position so I can screw in these side holders. Everything is assembled here. Now I can close the top cover, or rather the back one. Alright, so applied sealant here, and applied sealant to the cover. Now I'm putting on the gasket. And I'm closing the cover. Now I need to make sure that these protrusions fit into these holes. I roughly estimate, and if needed, I rotate this demultiplicator a bit. It's not fixed in any way, it just lies there in the housing, something like that. Now I'll put the cover on. I need to do this. I have to get into the guides that hold it. So as soon as I just put the cover on, I immediately put these bolts in place. They centered the fork for me so it wouldn't fall anywhere. Now I need to install the cylinder that controls the shifter. I'm reusing the old one since it worked fine. So this is how it's installed. And it's best to use thread locker on the nut. I'm just using a pneumatic gun to tighten it while holding the piston by hand. That will be enough. There's no way to tighten it anymore because the shaft will just spin in the holder. Now you can put a little oil on the cylinder. Here's a new gasket. I applied sealant, oiled the walls, tightened the piston, and I'm now installing the cylinder. Sealant got squeezed out, but that's not a problem. Still won't get inside. Next, I'll install the rear cover by first adding the oil seals. I've installed the oil seals. Now I need to add the washer and dust cover. Alright, that's it for this side. I'm all done here. Since I didn't replace the bearings, I'm just putting back the washer that was here. For this, I put a couple of drops of super glue and stick the washer so it doesn't fall off. I applied some sealant. Since there wasn't a gasket like this in the kit, I had to make a homemade one. I found some cardboard. It was packaging from the muffler. The muffler, I applied sealant and I'm installing the gasket. I cut the gasket up to the bearing, since there's also a rubber seal here, but we don't have a new rubber seal, and for some reason we can't find one. We're using the old one. It's still soft, just a little compressed. Honestly, it'll be fine with the gasket. I've applied sealant, glued the washer, the oil seals, put on the dust cover, coated the gasket, and now I'm installing the cover. Now I'll install the flange. When I took it apart, there was oil right here. That means oil gets in here to these splines, between the shafts to this flange along the splines. So, of course, there was a plug here to keep the oil from leaking out, but I'll still try to prevent oil from getting in there. That's why I generously coat these splines with a simple sealant. So I lightly lubricate the area where the oil seals move and the area where the bearing moves with some oil. The sealant has squeezed out well. It will dry now, and I think the oil won't get in here. Next, I put this washer in place. I also apply a little bit of sealant to it, just a small amount. These 24mm fork holders aren't tightened yet, so I'm tightening them now. Now I'm closing the reverse gear cover. I put the gearbox down to make it more convenient. Now I'm tightening the flange again. Now I need to tap it a bit to make sure everything is seated properly, just in case something didn't fit somewhere. Everything is seated tightly, so I'll tighten it again. I've tightened everything. Now the retainer secures these two bolts. I'm installing it like this. I take two sockets, sizes 20 and 21 from the set. Like this. The key is that it fits tightly, so the edges hold it in place. That's it. I put a plug here. The flange is in place. Now I need to install the plug. I applied sealant and I'm hammering it in. The flange is in place. Now I'm installing the retainer. Here's this cone. And there's a similar groove on the forks. And it also shows that some gear is engaged. So if any fork is pressed, this sensor here gets pressed. Next I'm installing the reverse sensor. First the ball goes in. Now I'm installing the sensor that shows whether the demultiplier is on or off. So, just like before, there's a ball on the shaft, the groove, the ball drops into it, and the sensor turns on and off. Next, I'm installing the cover. Next, I'll install the dust cover. Alright, so the fork is ready and now I'm installing it. Everything is just great. Well, and now the release bearing goes here. I'll just show you visually for now. The release bearing isn't here yet. It'll be new. So before installing the release bearing, you need to graze the cap with grease and also graze the fork arms here. For now, it was just to show how it sits. I'll demonstrate on the old one. Next I installed the Elma mounting case. If we look from above, we can see that all of these are at the same level. That means all the plugs are in place, the cover is installed. Before I tighten these 4 bolts, I install these rocker arms. They're installed easily just like this. Next, the springs are installed here. To keep these springs from falling out, I also glue them with sealant. The shifting mechanism is set, and I'm reinstalling the air tubes. I'm installing the speedometer sensor. I also put back the bracket that goes here for the cables. The gears on the gearbox are switched by cables here. I installed the speedometer sensor. That's it, the gearbox is assembled.